The Texas Space Alliance is an organization that's dedicated to making Texas the world leader in space activities, commercial, scientific exploration from end to end. We are a group of Texans who believe that based on our heritage, based on the capabilities that we have, based on the workforce, based on the spirit of the state, that Texas should rapidly move to take the lead in opening space, primarily at this point in the development of commercial space.
Is that why you're moving back there?
It is actually. It's part of it. I'm going through a lot of different changes, and I want to get the Texas Space Alliance started. I have a book up my sleeve I want to work on. I have a new lecture that I've started doing, and it's just time for a change. I've been away from Texas for 28 years, living in New York City and Los Angeles, and I always said I was going to go back and going to go check it out.
And where is back?
I'll be living near Dallas and making a decision as to whether I'm going to move to Austin, Houston, or from there, who knows? I may go back to LA if it doesn't work out. So I'm giving myself a lot of options.
You mentioned a new book up your sleeve. Is there anything?
The book is that I'm working on, just started on, is one I've been wanting to write for about 20 years, and I haven't written it. And what I'm looking at is the concept of our relationship to the universe. I'm actually doing it in a lecture now. Did it in Michigan, I'm Purdue, traveling. I'm going to be at the ISDC this year speaking at, it's called God and Rockets. And my concept here is, how do we tie what we're doing in NewSpace right now? How does a space, quote unquote, tourist tie into the greater destiny of humanity and what it means to be a human being? And I have music playing in the background, and I just kind of go off on the whole concept of let me put it this way. I believe it is our destiny as a species, and I think I've probably spoken to you about this subject before, but I believe it's our destiny as a species to expand beyond the Earth. I take it a bit further in the lecture God and Rockets, and get into how I believe that we are the eyes, ears, hands, feet, tasting, touching, sensing mechanism for the universe to know of itself. And that then begins to push into a relationship between ourselves and the universe that starts to beg the question of, at the level of almost cosmic or spiritual interaction with the universe, it's sort of our relationship to God. You know, are we God? Did God create us? Do we create God? If so, does that manifest itself in us becoming sentient beings and then being able to pretend to sort of report the universe back to itself? And therefore, one of my assumptions that I make in the lecture that is that without sentient beings to experience the universe, it's a dead place. And therefore, for all intents and purposes, on a conscious level, doesn't exist. And so I have fun with that, and I love doing that in front of space people, because one of the first things I say is, well, imagine if there are no aliens, and their brains explode, because they want to believe that their ET is out there, and I make the argument maybe he or she isn't out there, maybe we're it, and ET just landed. So they're going to, I'm being spied on by a black bird. No, I'm kidding. But I think it's, part of what I'm trying to do is contextualize what it is we're doing in this industry. We've gotten so much into the nits and grits of it all, down into the bending metal and turning bolts aspects of it, that we've lost our vision. And I think that one of the things we need to do is get the vision out there. The kind of battles we have in Congress, the kind of battles people have for financing, the kind of battles they have to succeed, even companies and concepts that have good ideas, tells me that we haven't really sold the vision of it yet. And so one of my jobs, I think, is to go out and try and articulate that. Why? Because, well, I'm not a rocket scientist. I can't build a rocket, but I can help them in the way I can.
And you have to have a vision to know where to go.
Absolutely. Without a picture of the future in your mind, you can't create it. Otherwise, it'll happen accidentally. And I have a friend who's all about that. What is that book they call it? The Secret, visualization. There is slightly, however you do agree or disagree with that, there is something to the idea that without a vision, without a vision, the people perish. I don't believe in a static culture. I believe in one that is anything like a static culture or one that is just making do is actually moving backwards, because time and space move forward, and if you're not moving with it or getting ahead of it, you're going backwards. So I believe as a culture we need to embrace the spirit of the frontier movement or NewSpace. By the way, I differentiate between the frontier movement and NewSpace. The frontier movement is this larger cause of expanding life and humanity beyond the planet. NewSpace is the industry or the engine that we're using to make it happen. A lot of people get confused. I'm sure you've heard all kinds of definitions. Not that I can claim to be exactly the person that made it up, but I was one of the people that made up the term. And when I started using it, I wanted to talk about people who had a vision of humanity expanding beyond the earth, but wanted to do it in a way that played into the old no buck Rogers paradigm. Nobody stays till somebody pays, and so NewSpace companies are trying to make it pay. That brings us back to space tourists and other activities, and having those activities as trivial as they may seem. Tourism, for example, may seem somewhat trivial. It's money, it's capital that goes into the industry. It creates markets. Those markets lead to other activities. We get more and more humans on site. One of the things that happened with the internet is that by popularizing the technology, we put more and more people in the loop. The more people we get in the loop, the more imaginations get applied to the technology, more things happen, and voila, we have this wonderful thing like your iPad or things like that. So my goal is to get us, our culture excited about space. I really want to see 100 years from now a culture whose main operating premise is that the expansion of life and the human race into space is what it's here to do. That's my goal. And I think we're in the very first shots of enabling that to occur, where it's just taken for granted that that's what we as human beings are here to do. Somebody once said that there's a billion star systems out there, with a billion planets. More star systems than there are grains of sand on all the beaches and all the deserts on Earth. We have not even, to badly paraphrase Churchill, begun the beginning of the beginning. So that's why I'm excited about this.